impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. When someone tells me it's impossible, I always just look at them. Anybody around me knows that they can't do that. So that's part of it. But if they didn't know me, it's your opinion. And they'll say, no, science shows. And I say, yeah, and how many times has science showed something's impossible? Now science shows it's possible. Things are impossible until somebody does it. And so I find that, most of your business people, you look at businesses and what does it take to make a business grow? It's not impossible to make a business grow. A business has been shrinking for a long time, or it's been stuck. The real problem is always, the chokehold is always the psychology and the skills of the leader, always. And 80% of that is psychology and 20% is the mechanics. Like if you don't know how to read your financials and you're trying to fly the plane of your company, I mean, come on. If all you do is go down, you look at profit and loss and you see what it is and you have a beer, either way, you either celebrate or you get depressed, something, you're gonna be in trouble, right? But if you have the skill sets, that's one thing. But you can get any skill set if you have the psychology. And anytime a business is not growing, it is not because it's impossible. It's because they aren't innovating, and they're not innovating because they're believing it's impossible. I mean, if we all know what does it take to transform, I always tell people it takes 3 things to create a breakthrough in anything, in your personal life, in your business, anywhere. You need a strategy. But that's not the first place you should look, and it's the first place all of us look. Me too. It's our inherent thing. You want to lose weight? Well, how do I do it? I want to grow my business? How do I do it? It's instinctive. We've been trained to think that way. But the problem is the how-to is usually not that complex. I mean, come on. 70% of America is 75% of America now is overweight. Is that because it's so complex how to be fit and strong, right? Only the 1% know the answers. They hide it from you. You have to work your ass off to not hear what it takes, right? And so I remember I went to a TED Med Center and I watched about 12 doctors, one after another, get up and do these stories about how we could just get patients to take their medications and trying to figure out the whole thing. And I was just looking and going, you're all talking about strategy and you've forgotten psychology. Because strategy is wonderful. I'm a strategist. I spent my whole life figuring out strategies. As we both know, a strategy could save you a decade, right? In business, strategy could save you, it could make the difference between success and failure. But most people have strategies available, or they could get them, or you could create them. But the problem is you got a story. And your story is why it isn't working. And the story is, I've tried what? Everything. If you tried everything, you'd be fit, right? If you tried everything, you'd be profitable. If you tried everything, you'd be there. But people say it, I'm big boned. That's what I used to say. I'm still big boned, but I'm 38 pounds lighter than I was 25 years ago, and I've never gained it back, right? When I was big boned, that was my story. All the good ones are gone. That's why I'm not in a relationship. Or they're gay and I'm not, or I'm gay and they are, or whatever the story is. There's always a story. And what I tell people is, if you can just divorce the story of your limitation and marry the truth of your unlimited capacity, then the whole game changes. But it's hard to do that because when you're in your story, you don't even realize it. So you need a third piece for a breakthrough, and that's really what my life's about, which is changing people's states. Because in a different state, we're different people. Can mean people be nice? Yes or no? Yes or no? Of course they are, when they're in a nice state. Can nice people be mean? Sure, they get a mean state. So really learning to train yourself to be in an ideal state where the best of you comes out for yourself, for your family, for your mission, for your world, for your coworkers. To me, that's one of the most important decisions in life to make. If you ask me, out of all the people I've met, all the things I've seen, what creates a magnificent life? Everybody has goals and dreams that are different. Some people want, picket fence. Some want to make $1 billion. Some, want to have this huge breakthrough in technology. Some people want to write poetry. Whatever is right for people is what I want them for themselves. I don't want them to be like me or you or anybody else. I want them to have their dream. But to have it, you need 2 skills. You need, number 1, to have the science of achievement. It's a science. You have to know how to take your vision and make it real. And most of the people in this room have already figured that out. And this guy sure as hell has, and you have, and I have. So most of us know, and we can all refine our skills in that area. But we know how to take what we dream about, make it real. And if you don't, you can learn from somebody who does. The simplest thing is get crazily hungry for something. We all know when you get so hungry, so desirous, your brain starts coming up with answers. And then it's massive action, but effective execution, which is all modeling, which is, I assume, what this is about. Find the best example, compress the time. Let someone else take 20 years to figure it out. You do it in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever the period is. We should all be standing on the shoulders of the people around us instead of reinventing the wheel. And then there's this thing called grace. If you work your ass off, you're totally focused, you're trying to serve something larger than yourself, and you really are executing what works, you need a little grace. You might want to call it luck if you prefer. God, the universe, but it's there. And we can all achieve. But I think the more important skill, if you ask me, is to have an extraordinary life is the art of fulfillment. And it's an art. It's not a science. Because there's a science to making money. I don't care who you are. If you do certain things, you're going to have too much financial stress. You do other things, you're going to have an abundance. There's a science. There's a science to your body. Everyone here is biochemically different genome, but there's certain fundamental patterns that if you and I follow them, you're going to have tons of energy, you're going to feel good. If you break them, you're going to pay the price and have low energy or disease. But fulfillment is an art. What's going to fulfill you is different than the other person next to you. You're not going to learn that from anybody else. And you got to find it, because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I get those phone calls all the time for the multi-billionaire entrepreneur or politician or business person or the person just won their Academy Award and they're depressed and they can't tell anybody because they got all their goals, but they're not fulfilled because they really don't have that sense of meaning in their life. They went for something and they got it. They achieved. And if you doubt this, what I'm saying is relevant to you or us or anyone, just think about a year, a month ago, we lost what I consider to be a national treasure, Robin Williams. How many of you loved Robin Williams? Look around the room, keep your hands up, look. And most of you didn't know him, almost every. And then where you go in the world, people love Robin Williams. By the way, was he great at achievement? Oh my God, that guy, he said he wanted to become a great comedian, he did that. I want to make the world laugh, he did. I want to make my own TV show, he did it. I want to have the #1 TV show, he did it. I want to make movies, he did it. I want an Academy Award for not being funny. Not his skill set, drama, and he did it. I want a beautiful family, and he did it. And then he hung himself. Make everybody happy but yourself. Not a good plan. So if I had a gift to give you, it would be maybe make a different decision. And the decision is that no matter what happens in your life, you're going to live in a beautiful state. A beautiful state. And that could be happy, that could be grateful, that could be being generous. Those are all beautiful states, aren't they? It could be curious. It could be fun, it could be playful. You're not limited to one state, but it's different than suffering. And most people's suffering, and all suffering I've ever seen, I've traveled to 100 countries, I've dealt with presidents of countries and, presidents of businesses, CEOs, I've dealt with people in prison, I've dealt with, you name it, average people. Suffering always comes because you're obsessed about something related to you. You can only be depressed if you're focusing on yourself. You say, no, I'm depressed because it's my kids and they're not doing well. No, you're depressed because you feel you failed your kids. It's about you. It's about how you think what you should have done or shouldn't have done or what someone did to you or didn't do to you in the past or the future, which don't even exist. So I have a simple goal. My goal is help people make a decision that says, I don't know what's going to happen. You might get a divorce, even though you don't think so. You might find a member of your family with cancer. You might have your house get burned down or have a tornado go by, and if you live in the same place, it happens every 2 years and you move back, we should talk, but some people seem to do that for some reason. You can't control those things. I can't control those things. I don't want those to happen to you or anybody I love or anybody who's even a stranger to me, but they're going to happen. True? Not positive things, just the truth. So if that's going to happen, I say make a decision now that says, I'm going to live in a beautiful state and I'm going to find beauty in whatever life brings me. Because life is too short not to. I see a little buddy over here named Sean. I remember when I got a phone call from the Make-A-Wish Foundation saying a young man is about to die and he wants to meet you. And he came to the seminar and then I took him out afterwards. And at the time, if he coughed too much, they said you can't grab him. I said, I want to take him across the fire. They said, take him across the fire? I said, if he coughs, he'll break a rib. I said, I'll be really gentle. We're going to do this thing. And he did it. And then afterwards, I sat down with him and said, man, I don't have the answers, but if your body you're just coughing and it's gonna make you break a rib, your body is so acid. I said, you should get alkaline. Let me put you together with a doctor. How many years ago was that?
I'm 36, I was 19.
You were 19 and you're now 36. I like seeing you here, so brother. Give him a hand, he's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man. But Sean, what made me think of Sean is Sean lives in a beautiful state. He could be complaining and whining. What does he do? His whole life is not about himself. That's why he's so happy. He doesn't live in himself. He lives outside himself, serving things he loves. He still takes care of himself, and he's funny. He likes to seduce women and things like I can't talk about right now, but... Oh, you're married now? Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear it's about frickin' time, all right, Sean? It's good to see you grew up. Now, The bottom line is this young man over here who now is at a different stage of life, he's always been who he is. I think he lived because he lived for more than himself. I'm sure he felt pain, but we only suffer when we think about what's being done to us or what people are going to think or what they should have done or hadn't done, and you can't control that stuff anyway. I mean, why be pissed when people are going to do it? Are people going to be mean, yes or no? Are people going to be unfair and unjust, yes or no? Are people going to be beautiful and generous, yes or no? You just never know when that's going to happen, so might as well enjoy yourself along the way. And I suggest today, if you want, if there's any gift I came by to give you, it's to tell you what you know already, but get you to make a decision about it. To actually decide, I'm going to live in a beautiful state. That doesn't mean I don't get angry or tired. Or, suffering arises and you end it the moment you go, I'm thinking about me. If I do this, I'll always be suffering. The human mind is always looking for what's wrong. The human brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. Happiness, that's your job. And you only get it if you draw a line in the sand. That's how it's going to be. And I can tell you the few people that do it, I know a few people that have done it, they have magnificent lives. And when you're in a beautiful state, the best ideas come in. This man lives in a beautiful state. Every time I talk to him, I love seeing Peter. Peter's just always on fire about something. But notice, he's doing unbelievably well. There's nothing wrong with that. But almost everything he's doing is about more than himself, and so that's why he feels so alive. He's not suffering an ounce. He's in ecstasy. He's not lucky. He's living life a certain way. It's a beautiful way. I'm honored to have you as a friend.
Thank you, brother.
How many met this man before, and he was in a wonderful state? Let me show your hands. I don't think I've ever seen him not in a wonderful state. I've seen him have some painful, challenging places, but he doesn't stay there. And look what he's able to create because of it. He is a 9-year-old boy who's on fire. He's on fire to light the world on fire with what's possible. It's a beautiful thing. I honor you.
So the contribution I'll make, thank you, Tony. And I think it was about impossible and mindset and so forth. Yeah. Is the reality is there is very little that's impossible, period. It just is. And your mindset, as soon as you say something is impossible, then you shut down every possibility for solving it, right? And we all know this. And the challenge is that it's really hard not to be in that state because we get thrown stuff all the time. And what I want to share with you is an experiment, which is to say, okay, not only how do I make it possible, but how do I actually go 10 times bigger? And you've heard me speak about this, moonshot thinking, bold thinking, whatever the case, whatever terminology you want to give it. And most of us in our life are trying to make a 10% improvement. And we know this. This is, I'm trying to increase my revenues by 10%, I'm trying to reduce my sales by 10%, save 10% more of the lands out there, whatever it truly is. We all have this sort of beaten into us by life and by the rest of the universe that you can make these small incremental improvements. But the fact of the matter is that there are those in the world that go 10 times bigger. And every one of us can be that. And as soon as you say, I want to not only solve this thing, but go 10 times bigger in my work, in the things, and can I say this, in something that you're truly passionate about, not just about earning a little bit more money. I mean, it really should be in something that you care truly about, that is bigger than yourself, that is impacting the world. As soon as you try and go 10 times bigger, 3 magical things happen. Number one, even if you have no idea how to solve it, no idea how to get there, you'll be amazed at what you come up with. And what's interesting is our legacy, our past, anchors us to where we are today. And you have to let go of that. You truly have to let go of all the stuff in your past, what you thought you'd done, all of the infrastructure that you've built to let yourself go. When Elon Musk built Tesla, the reason Tesla was such an amazingly better car is he didn't have 100 years of Detroit to hold on to. He started with a clean sheet of paper. And imagine what could be. The second thing is when you try and go 10 times bigger versus 10% bigger, it's 100 times the value proposition. And it's never 100 times more expensive or 100 times harder. And so you get this increased capability. And then the third thing is when you try and go 10 times bigger, to solve a problem 10 times bigger, you've got to reinvent stuff. You have to actually go and figure out, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to solve that, but you're going to start to reinvent things. So when Eric and I were working on, asteroid mining, we had to reinvent. We had to have so much computational power on board the spacecraft. We had to come up with brand new sensors and hyperspectral and midwave IR that didn't exist, had never been licensed, because these spacecraft were going to be operating at 200 million miles away, and that forced us to come up with new kinds of capabilities that were not currently possible. And you'll be amazed what those capabilities that you create in your business, in your life, enable you to do. And so there's this massive benefit, this payoff, this dividend that comes from expanding your mind and not being anchored to the past. And so I think that there are very few things that are truly impossible. I think that impossible is a state of mind. And I'll say one other thing. The people in your life are part of that anchoring. And so how do you anchor yourself with a new set of people? Right? I'm looking at my dear friend Naveen Jain here, with whom we've opened up X Prize India and are really working on solving women's and girls' issues in India and providing abundant drinking water in India. I mean, so how do you surround yourself with amazing people who live in the state of anything is possible? I'm blessed at X Prize, at Singularity University, at HLI and PRI. I live that constantly. And so how do you do that? Where are you doing that? What is your nothing is impossible community? Here. It is truly here. And so that's really critically important, because once you get into that mindset, then you start freeing yourself from that you tell yourself and people tell you. Because we are living in a world where constant, amazing miracles happen. The other thing, because I'll put my commercial into this, stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. You could not pay me enough to have the Crisis News Network or the Constantly Negative News Network, whatever you call CNN, pollute my mind. Really, I have social networks, I have Google filters and so forth. I was just telling Ariana about this, and hopefully she'll do this. I want on the front page of Huffington Post, I said, I want a slider where I can control the percentage of positive news stories. Right? How would you like that instead of, because right now it's 10 to 1 negative to positive. It's true. It's like, why would you possibly invest in the world and in the life and all these things if the world is falling apart? If the Crisis News Network is like showing you airplane accident, airplane accident, airplane accident, what problem is that the news networks never tell you, there was no school shooting today at this school, or this airplane actually flew LA to New York and actually made it and everybody survived. That's not news. And so we get this disproportionate view, and so our minds are constantly, the mindset you have when you watch the negative news is awful. It's not that it's not going on. It's not that there's this amazing hardship and lives that are on the precipice of hunger and death around the world. But the world is getting better at an extraordinary rate, and you can make a difference in it. And there is no problem. There is no problem we cannot solve, period. End of statement. So.
Awesome. All right, so since both of you are two of the greatest achievers and biggest thinkers, at least that I know.
In the history of humanity.
Well, honest to God, you know what? No, in a very serious way. It's funny. I can't imagine there will ever be another Tony Robbins. You are a freaking freak of nature.
That's true.
A force of nature. And I mean, one of the most amazing things, like, when I went to date with Destiny, he'll ask, how many of you came here, you're thinking about committing suicide? And literally, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 12 or whatever, I don't know the amount, stand up, and you literally take that on. I don't know another human being that could, I mean, it's mind-boggling, and you flip it. You take a person in a horrible, hopeless state, and they're coming to your seminar maybe as a last-ditch effort, but there's that hope. And you just channel it, but then you share that with freaking thousands of people live on the spot. I mean, and that's just one of like hundreds of things that you do that are mind-boggling.
And everybody in the audience thinking, there's no way he can do this. There's no way you can solve. How can you possibly? And then boom, it's done. You do it. It is truly a blessing to have you on the planet.
It's a blessing.
I mean, like, were you born this way? It's a stupid question, but like, I'm saying it for other people. Like, you built yourself to be Tony Robbins.
Could we publish your gene sequence?
I was a kid from Azusa who had no certainty, who we had no food and had to be in charge because my mother was a little crazy. And I promised myself that my future family would never go through this. And so I decided I hated suffering because I experienced it and I wanted to end it. So I read 700 books in the area of human development, psychology, and physiology when I was still 17, 18, 19 to 21, 22 years old. I was saying I was going to read a book a day. I didn't do that, but I was still immersed. I went to every event. I listened to everything. I got immersed. But when it comes to people, I've been doing this for, 38 years, and I've been with 50 million people, so, and 100 countries. So there's nothing I haven't seen at this point when somebody stands up. So it's beautiful. It happens different every time. It comes through me. And I really believe in grace. I really believe it's there. But I prepare at a level that most people never dream of. And I also know that there's, whatever human beings feel, we are not our feelings. We are not our patterns. Those are things we might identify with, but we're not that. And so when I see a pattern and it doesn't work, I don't think the person's broken. I don't think anybody's broken. I'm not here to fix people. But I am here to break up the patterns that don't work. And I've never lost to suicide, knock on wood, and thousands for 38 years. And we follow up 2 years later, 3 years later. They're making a documentary right now.
So how do you both deal with or think about or even channel like extreme levels of stress, adversity, criticism, public opinion, or failure? Because both of you have had, things that just flat out didn't work, but you're public figures. And how do you handle it or deal with it or think about it?
I really let go of criticism really fast. I might, sort of process it in the moment, try and figure out is there something that I truly can learn from there valid, but I let go of it really fast. And so if I'm in a fight, a personal fight or whatever, it's like, time is so precious. Time is so precious. Failure, God, I've had a wonderful series of failures. And, I built a launch vehicle company that we won this huge contract and couldn't finance it and had to close it down. I've built a multitude of companies. Luckily, a third have been great, a third have been okay, and a third have been life lessons. But I have to believe that what I'm doing in my heart of hearts is the right thing to do. And if I'm doing the very best I can, and I believe it is something, because when I take $1 from somebody as a donation or as an investment, and those of you who are in the room here who have supported me or invested in me know that. It's like, it's me. It's like you got my cell phone number and I care and I am so committed to making, to delivering. I will do everything I possibly can. So I need to know that for myself. And I can sleep at night if something fails, but I know I gave it everything I possibly could. And there are also those times where, it's like nosedive. And I will stop everything else I'm doing and I will go laser-like on that. 100%, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I will do everything humanly possible. And it takes that a lot of times. It absolutely takes that a lot of times. So, that's for me.
Awesome, thank you.
I would say, I love to light people up. Since I was a little kid, I love to light people up. And so early on, I want to make everybody happy all the time. And then I come in this package, I was 5'1", and then next thing I know, I'm 6'7". I grew 10 inches in a year because I had a tumor in my brain. And I didn't even know it. And I grew, so I'm big, and I'm, quiet and unassuming. I have a hard time expressing my true feelings, so it makes it difficult for people to understand what I'm really like. No, I'm fairly loud and intense, and what happened for me in the beginning is I was trying to make everybody happy all the time, and then I just began to realize not everybody wants to be happy. And gradually I began to realize opinions are a dime a dozen, but impact is all that matters to me. So when you've had the impact, and you don't need anybody else to tell you. And you don't need somebody else to acknowledge you, put stars on your chart. When you do what's right, you know it. And no one can take that from you. They can take away anything you have, but they can't take away who you become. And you become something unique when you find a way to grow and you find a way to give. And when you do that consistently, it creates an extraordinary life. So I'd lie to say that I don't want people to hate me or dislike me, but it wouldn't be accurate to say I don't care, but I don't care enough to change what I'm doing. If what I'm doing is valuable. And I think that as far as failure is concerned, oh my God, there's so many failures, but I just don't hold it that way. And it's not a technique or being positive, it's just being intelligent. Failure is education if you use it. If you learn something, it's not a failure. If you don't learn anything, then it's failure. But if you learn something, I mean, how many of you in this room have had something happen in your life that was horrific? You hated it. You'd never want to go through it again. You never want somebody you care about to go through it. But looking back on it 5, 10 years later, you say, I'm so glad I went through that because it made me so much stronger or so much smarter or maybe care so much more. Who can relate? I'm curious. Right? So if that's true, then why not adopt the philosophy that life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. And that everything's happening for me, even what I thought was failure. And now my job is to figure out where's the benefit and use it for greater good. So I could probably list unlimited failures, but I would be insincere because I don't really look at them as failure. And that's not because I'm positive, it's just because I work my ass off to figure out what can I learn from that, how can I use that. And I'd like to make people happy, but I've also learned in business, like I fire customers. I don't need them. It's a privilege to do business with us because we will more than deliver times 10. And so I teach my team, and it's so rare we have to do it anymore, but you fire a customer and you say, listen, we're not going to be able to meet your needs clearly because are there people out there that no matter what you do, they're going to be unhappy, yes or no? But why are you doing business with them and taking the life energy of your organization from it? I get rid of them so fast, and then they always want back in. And I never let them back, never. And then when they become a public hanging and other people go, well, this is how you play here. Because in the world of the internet, we've lost any form of kindness. People say things that are the most harsh, horrific thing, and the stuff people write, and all it is people who feel insignificant, who would never have the guts to say something to your face, but we've created an environment where it's tolerated. And so I think reversing that, it's really important. You have to define your environment, your business, your world, your family, because we all get what we tolerate. I won't tolerate it. I'll give my soul to a stranger, but I won't tolerate somebody being abusive to any member of my team or to people in my audience or to me, certainly not to my family. And you get what you tolerate. You got to decide. And you also get what you tolerate in yourself. And I think if you can look at what you're tolerating yourself and say, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore in myself, then it's easier to lead other people. If you're just telling other people you won't tolerate, they'll look at you and go, yeah, you don't tolerate, but look how you are. And you don't have to be perfect, but people see how, you don't have to know who I am. You don't have to watch my lips move. You can see how my feet have moved for 38 years. That's Tony Robbins, right? That's probably the best signature you can give. That's the brand that you put out there. It's the way you live.
The thing you said, the line, which I love, life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. Is that like, is part of that a trick you play on yourself, or do you truly believe everything you are able to take that as ingredients of this is all happening for me, this most horrible, most horrendous thing from diseases to suffering? I mean, that's an important line, and I like to...
It's not just a line. There's a woman that I just saw that I'd met 15 years ago, and she just showed up at my seminar, and she was suicidal because one of her daughters had gotten sick, and she brought her to the hospital, and the doctor said she brought her home and the child died. And she was going to kill herself, and she had 3 other kids. So I really, truly had to work with her, and I remember working with her back then. I looked it up because we have all stuff I've ever done on film. And I asked her, I said, what are your spiritual beliefs? And she said, I believe everything happens for a reason, and all that stuff. I said, so you're going to abandon what you believe spiritually because life didn't turn out the way you want right now? She said, no. I said, if it's the truth, it'll be the truth when it's painful, it'll be the truth when it's pleasurable. So I would lie to you to say, I jump up and go, this is happening for me right now. I don't do that. I think, what the hell's happening? Why? And then I catch myself and I go, there's some good in this. And my real core belief underneath that is, everything I've ever been able to help people with is because I've faced some portion of it. If I have to face a divorce, I decided I needed to go through a divorce, and I didn't want to. No one takes you to pick your partner after 14 years. It was the most horrific thing in the world, but I thought, if I can figure out how to do this elegantly, intelligently, lovingly, no matter what the other party's like, then I can help anybody else. I've had several businesses over the decades that were, near the verge of bankruptcy. I had a resort in Fiji, and there was a coup. It's kind of inconvenient, and I'm losing $1 million a month, and it's like, and I didn't have $1 million a month to be losing at that time, just I wanted to create this great place for people. But it's like, in the midst of all those elements, I'd come back and say, if I can figure this out, I can help any other business. So almost all my skills have come because of something I had to solve in me or help someone else solve. And my view is, if I can figure it out for me, I can help millions of people. And so that makes the problem inspiring, as opposed to the problem being, why did it happen to me? Because we're all going to experience problems. I mean, the only thing that we all have in common is everyone here is going to experience severe pain. I don't care how rich you are, money is not going to create immunity to pain. Suffering, you can get immunity from the decision I told you about. But we're all going to have problems. We're all going to have challenges. The only difference is what the hell are you going to do with them? And if we just deal with our own problems, they get really boring, and some people need problems to have drama in their life to cover the fact they're not doing anything. But I think it's much more interesting to solve it and move on and help other people do the same because you've actually done it, not because you talk about it.
Yeah, gotcha. What I love is Robin Sharma, who we did a call with. He's in the room. He has this thing, the 5 a.m. Club. A guy named Hal Elrod wrote a book of Miracle Morning. You do priming in the morning. I'd love to hear what you guys feel are your best rituals, or what it is that you are doing that just massively impacts you to be as effective as both of you are. If there's something simple or something that you just do that makes your life work, starting be it a morning ritual or just anything that people here could do.
Does watching cartoons with my kids at 7 a.m. count?
No, that may be accurate.
I mean, it's for me, it's anchored in my desiring to make the impossible stuff I set out happen, right? It's anchored in this infinity challenge. I'm never bored. These problems I've taken on with an amazing group of people are all sort of infinite, and there's no getting there. So for me, they're my guiding stars. So it's like, okay, what am I going to do right now to move the game forward this day? You know, I wish I could say I was a great meditator or yoga person or so forth, and that will come, but not right now. For me, it's just it's dedication to the child inside me and what I care deeply about, which is making these succeed. And ultimately, it's trying to be clear about what I'm enjoying doing. Right? It's surfing the stuff I love versus this is work. I'm probably not good at this work. Who else can I find that can do it? And doing the stuff that I truly love better, and doing more of that. I mean, there's nothing sophisticated there. Tony, what do you got?
Well, I think anyone who succeeds has something that they aspire to. There's a mission, there's a direction, there's a desire, and they bring it up regularly. And you do that, even though you say you don't do it in a sophisticated way. Attacking the human genome and figuring out how to get meteors to feed you what you need is a fairly large vision, somewhat sophisticated. Mine's really simple. Mine's simple as I believe that the body is the place that drives the mind the fastest. You can go inside your head all day long trying to resolve things and make excuses or freak out, but I learned early on in my life that in order to make myself do things, I had to trigger this body to feel strength and to know that when I say something, I mean it. And so I have a simple ritual that it's actually enjoyable. It may not sound enjoyable, but it is now, which is I get up every morning, and I'm privileged to have multiple homes. So if I'm in those homes, one of the homes I have a river, the rest of them I have cold plunges. And I go into a 56-degree temperature just for about 60 seconds. I jump straight in, or I was just in Sun Valley, the river's 38 degrees, a little bit cooler. And I took my nephew and said, "You're about to learn how to start your day." And I bring all my friends when they come. They all have to do this. But every cell, every nerve in your body explodes, and it's phenomenal for your lymph system, phenomenal for your health. But it also is just a simple discipline that says, I say it, it happens. I'm going to say I'm going to do this, I do it. And I've done it so much, it's there, and it's invigorating. And then I do, as you said, something I call priming. I don't, you wake up and you're, 22 hours off your normal time zone, and you've got to get up and take care of 10,000 people for 3 days and nights for 14 to 15 hours. You don't always wake up feeling, wow, is this the coolest thing in the world? Some wake up and go, what universe is my body in, And so I do my physical ritual, but then I also do this priming. And priming for me is just, I don't hope that I'm going to show up at my best. I create a state for it. Most of you know probably the principle of priming. They've proven it in so many scientific studies. We all think we make our decisions consciously, when much of our decision making that we think is conscious is being made by contextual environmental manipulation that we're not even thinking about. In one study, they took some people and they hired actors that would go to 100 people and they'd walk up to you and they were trained to do the exact same look, same expression, and they'd say, would you hold this? They hand you a coffee cup and they reach in their pocket and grab their phone, put them back, say, thank you very much. They just to kind of assume the action. And they would do it the same way, same facial expression. 100 people one way, 100 people other. And what was the only difference? Cold iced coffee versus hot coffee. An hour later, they come back with some people, different people, who've got little caps on. They're saying, listen, we'll give you $10 if you'll give us 2 minutes. If you read this 3-paragraph story and give us 2 question answers. And they read this little story, everyone reads the same story, and at the end they ask them, how would you describe the main character? What are they like as a person? 80% of the people that got warm coffee said they're warm, they're generous, they're loving, but warm is always one of the language patterns. 80% like clockwork, people got the iced coffee, same story, say that they're very cold, that they use language like being obsessed or being about themselves, selfish, things of this nature. I give you dozens of examples. So what I do each morning is I do a breathing pattern. It's an explosive breathing pattern that I learned in India, breathing your breath in and exploding it out, from the gut out the nose. And I do that 3 sets of 10, pause, 3 sets of 10, pause, 3 sets of 10. So it alters my state. And then I just do 3 things for 10 minutes because I have this deal with myself. If you don't have 10 minutes for yourself, you don't have a life. Who's with me on this? So I said, you know what? I don't need to have 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute meditations. I want 10 minutes, and I don't know I need to meditate. I don't know if I'm going to meditate. To not think, I don't know too many people can do that. And I don't even know that I want to not frickin' think, So I thought, what I want to do is I want to focus on the emotions that will cause me to be the better me. And the 2 emotions that most people are messed up by are anger and fear. And when you're grateful, you can't be angry. Try to be grateful and angry simultaneously, it'll never work. And you can't be fearful when you're grateful. So when I look at people, almost always they're reacting out of fear or they're reacting out of anger. It's some version of those 2. So gratitude to me is the antidote. So I spend 3 minutes, just 3 minutes, and I think of 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 people, 3 situations, but I step into it. I don't remember the roller coaster over there riding it. I put myself in the front seat going over the edge so I feel the moment. And I make sure one of the 3 things I'm grateful for is something really simple, like the wind on my face, or something beautiful like my child's smile. And the reason I do that is because I remember, interviewing some of the astronauts, Buzz Aldrin and these guys, and most of you probably know, you can imagine, to be an astronaut, this man knows, to aspire to do that, and then to go through the thousands of people and be picked, and then to actually go to the moon and stand on the moon and look back and see that picture we've all seen, that blue-green Earth. You imagine, and then you come home and what happens? There's a ticker tape parade and you shake the president's hand. And now what the hell do you? You're 32. What the hell do you do for the rest of your life? And you know what? If you know the story of many of these astronauts, most of them had some major emotional challenges, right? Some abused alcohol, some drugs. And they had a real rough time because they forgot to find adventure in a smile. They thought the only way to do is go to the moon. So I trained myself to make sure not just the big, beautiful things that are part of my life, but the little things. And so I feel that for 3 minutes. Then I do 3 minutes of a blessing, corny as it may sound. I imagine life, God, energy coming into my body, healing every muscle, every nerve in my body, strengthening everything that needs to be strengthened, strengthening the best of me, my passion, my love, my generosity, my creativity, my humor, my love. And then I see any problem that needs to be solved just being solved, because otherwise I tend to think I got to do it all. And then once I feel that fully, and that energy comes through me and back through me multiple times, then I do a circle of my intimate family, my kids, my wife, my friends. This little character over here is one of my list. And I just circle out all the way out to my clients. And I send that same energy to them. And I imagine, as corny as it sounds, they're being healed. They're getting what they need energy-wise. They're having the life that they deserve and seeing it multiplied. So I do that for 3 minutes. And the last 3 minutes are my 3 to thrive. I think of 3 specific outcomes that matter to me. And I don't think about achieving them. I see, feel, and experience them as done, and I see the impact that it has. I see people's lives touched. I see the joy. I feel it as done, and I feel grateful. And it's 10 minutes, but honestly, it usually goes 15 or 20 because I'm having a damn good time. But awesome. By having a 10-minute walk, there's no excuse not to do it. And I do it every day, and I don't hope I'm gonna feel good. And then what happens is, you're primed. You see things through a different set of filters. You make decisions through different filters. And also think of it, most people are wired for stress. They're wired for frustration. They're wired for feeling lonely. And they got a highway to pissed off and they've got dirt roads to happiness. So I decided I'm going to wire myself for happiness. I wasn't born that way. My view is I had to change the whole earth to be happy. Today, that's different for me. Now I can just wake up and be happy because I've wired myself in a different way, neurologically. And then I show other people how to do this as well.
You guys are awesome. I really, really appreciate you both coming to this and taking it. Thank you so much.